My husband secretly withdrew all the money from our joint account and went on vacation with his mother. Then he texted me, "Good luck, idiot. I left you $100 to survive." But what that jerk didn't know was that just a few minutes earlier, I had done one single thing that changed everything. And before we start, please don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Thank you, and enjoy the story. Jessica had always known the value of money. Every dollar sitting in their joint account had been earned through her hard work, 10 hours a day, 6 days a week, with no vacations or sick leave. She worked as a chief accountant at a large logistics company, and her salary was 3 times higher than her husband's. Valentine Grimoff, on the other hand, wasn't much of a worker. The project wasn't right, the team was toxic, the boss was a tyrant, there was always something. For the past 6 months, he hadn't worked at all, claiming he was finding himself freelancing. Jessica didn't complain. She wasn't one of those women who nagged their husbands about every dollar. Let him search, let him experiment, as long as he didn't interfere with her earning money for both of them. But that April morning, something changed. Jessica woke up before the alarm, as usual. Valentine was still asleep, sprawled across half the bed. She quietly got up, threw on her robe, and went to the kitchen to make coffee. As she passed his jacket, carelessly tossed over the back of a chair, she noticed the corner of a paper sticking out of the pocket. Jessica wasn't the type to snoop through other people's stuff. She didn't care to. But something about that little white corner made her stop. Instinct. A sixth sense. Call it whatever you like. She pulled it out. It was a printed hotel reservation. A resort town down south. 5-star hotel. Check-in, April 23rd. Check-out, May 7th. 2 guests. Jessica slowly sank into a chair. April 23rd, that was the day after tomorrow. She flipped the page over. On the back was another document, airline tickets. Same dates, same destination. Passengers, Grimoff Valentine and Grimoff Tamara. Tamara, her mother-in-law. Jessica sat frozen, staring at the papers. The coffee maker hissed, filling the kitchen with the smell of freshly brewed coffee, but she didn't hear it. Her mind was already connecting the dots with icy clarity. Valentine hadn't mentioned any trip. His mother hadn't said a word either, though she had called just 2 days ago, complaining about her health, the prices, and life in general. 14 days in a 5-star hotel, at least $4,500 for 2. The plane tickets, another $1,400. Their joint account held exactly $10,500. Those were her savings from the past 3 years. Every month, she set money aside for their future, for home renovations, a car, a rainy day. Jessica stood up, put the papers back into the pocket, poured herself some coffee, and sat by the window, looking at the gray sky above the city. She didn't feel hurt or angry. Just a cold, sharp understanding. They were using her. Valentine walked out of the bedroom half an hour later, sleepy and rumpled, wearing an old t-shirt. He stretched, yawned, and plopped down on the chair across from her. "Got coffee?" Jessica poured him a cup. He drank while scrolling through his phone, chuckling at something in his newsfeed. "Hey, Jess," he said suddenly, eyes still glued to the screen. "Mom called yesterday. Her heart's acting up again. I'm thinking of taking her somewhere down south, maybe a spa resort. You don't mind, do you?" Jessica took a sip of her coffee and looked at him over the rim of her cup. "When are you going?" "Soon, probably. I'll let you know for sure." "I see." Valentine nodded and went back to his phone. He lied so easily, so casually, without even looking up. Jessica placed her cup in the sink and went to get dressed for work. In the hallway, she took out her phone and snapped a few pictures of the documents she'd found in his jacket pocket. Then she carefully put everything back exactly the way it was. At work, she couldn't focus. She checked reports, signed documents, talked to employees, all on autopilot. One thought kept spinning in her head: what were they planning? At lunch, she locked herself in her office and opened her banking app. Their joint account, $10,500. The last transaction, her salary, deposited on the 5th. She scrolled through the transaction history. Over the past month, Valentine had withdrawn $600, in small amounts, $70 here, $130 there. Each time he said it was for groceries, gas, household stuff. Now she understood. He'd been stockpiling cash. Getting ready. She searched online and found the hotel's website, the same one listed on the booking. A junior suite with an ocean view, $300 per night. 14 nights, $4, $200. Plus meals, plus tickets. At least $5,900 total. More than half their savings. Jessica leaned back in her chair. So that's why her mother-in-law had been so sweet lately, calling, checking in, even dropping by with homemade pies. Jessica had been surprised back then. Tamara had never been kind to her. Ever since the wedding, she thought her son could have done better. Now it all made sense. They'd planned it together. Jessica took out her planner and flipped to the page with passwords. There was Valentine's email. She'd set it up for him once, and he'd never changed the password. She logged in. Inbox. Emails from a travel agency, booking confirmation, e-tickets, invoices. Everything had been paid for a week ago. She scrolled further and found his messages with his mother. Val, are you sure you can withdraw all the money at once? What if she notices? Don't worry, Mom. I've got it all figured out. I'll take out the cash at the ATM and transfer the rest to my card. She'll be at work, she won't notice. By the time she does, we'll already be gone. What if she calls and makes a scene? Let her. We don't owe her anything. It's our joint money, not just hers. Good boy. I've been telling you she doesn't appreciate you. Always working, never any time for you. Why'd she even get married then? I don't know, Mom. But it doesn't matter now. Jessica read the thread, feeling herself go numb inside. Not anger. Not pain. Just icy calm. She took screenshots of the entire conversation and saved them on her phone, then sent them to her work email. Logged out. Closed the browser. Checked the clock, 1:30 p.m. For more hours till the end of the workday. She dialed her friend Marina. Hey, listen, can you meet tonight? Jess, my daughter's running a fever. We just called the doctor. I see. Get well soon. Jessica hung up, thinking. Then she called her coworker, Lydia. Hey, LYD. Do you know any good lawyers? Family law. Lawyers? Lydia sounded surprised. What's going on? Are you getting divorced? Maybe. I need a consultation. Hold on, I'll send you a contact. My sister had a divorce, some guy helped her. He's good. A minute later, Jessica got a text with a name and a number. She called immediately. Hello, is this Christopher Anderson? Yes, speaking. I need legal advice about divorce and property division. It's urgent. How urgent are we talking? Today, or tomorrow morning? I've got a slot at 6 tonight. Does that work? Perfect. She wrote down the address, hung up, and looked at her phone screen. Everything was moving the way it should, fast and right. The rest of the day went by in a blur. Jessica worked mechanically, answered questions, signed papers. At 5:40, she grabbed her things and left the office. The lawyer's office was in an old downtown building. 3rd floor, a long hallway with peeling paint and a door with a small sign. Christopher Anderson turned out to be a man in his 50s, gray at the temples, with a tired face. He listened silently as Jessica told him everything, about the documents, the emails, the shared account. Show me the evidence, he said. Jessica pulled out her phone and showed him the photos and screenshots. He studied them carefully, then leaned back in his chair. It's an unpleasant situation, he said finally, but a solvable one. You've got proof that they're planning to take the money without your consent. That gives you the right to act first. How exactly? She asked. You can file a request with the bank citing unauthorized access to the account and ask them to temporarily restrict transactions until the situation is clarified. The bank will be required to notify you of any attempts to withdraw large sums. And that's legal? Absolutely. You're a co-owner of the account. You have every right to protect your money. Jessica nodded. Something clicked inside. The plan was forming on its own. What if he manages to withdraw part of the money already? Then you'll have to go to court. But if you submit the request before he starts withdrawing, the bank will block all transactions. He simply won't be able to access the funds without your consent. How much time do I have? The attorney looked at the photos of the tickets. They're flying out the day after tomorrow, so he'll try to withdraw the money either tomorrow or the day of the flight. You need to file the request tomorrow morning. Okay. And one more thing. If you intend to file for divorce, start gathering documents right now, anything proving your financial stability, his unemployment, your contributions to the household budget. All of it will help in court. Jessica took notes. The list turned out long. How much do I owe you? $200 for the consultation. If you decide to have me handle the case, we'll discuss the fee separately. Jessica pulled out her wallet, counted out the bills, thanked him, and left. Dusk was settling in outside. The city lights were coming on. Jessica walked slowly along the sidewalk, turning everything he'd said over in her mind. She wasn't afraid, wasn't doubting. She was simply lining up the steps, one by one. At home, Valentine was on the couch with a beer, watching soccer. He looked up and nodded. Want dinner? No, Jessica said. I ate at work. She went to the bedroom, shut the door, took out her laptop, and opened her documents folder. Pay stubs for the last 3 years. The condo contract, titled in Jessica's name, bought before the marriage. Marriage certificate, passport, social security number. She put everything into a separate folder on her desktop and named it Documents for Attorney. Then she opened the banking app. She went through the account settings, found security and notifications, and turned on alerts for all account activity. Now every withdrawal, every transfer would ping her phone instantly. She closed the laptop, lay down on the bed, stared at the ceiling. Tomorrow she'd go to the bank, file the request, put a lock on her money, and they wouldn't even know until the very last moment. She wasn't planning to take revenge or prove anything. She was simply protecting what was hers. In the morning, Valentine was unusually upbeat, up early, dressed. He even ate breakfast. Jessica noticed him glancing at his phone several times, clearly waiting on something. You're up early today, she said. Yeah, errands. I need to go help my mom with something. Jessica nodded, finished her coffee, and put on her coat. Have a good day, she said, and walked out. She got to the bank right at opening, 9 o'clock sharp. The lobby was empty, just a few retirees at the windows. Jessica approached the reception desk. I need to see a manager. What's it regarding? Account transactions. The woman checked her computer. Please have a seat. The manager will be available in about 10 minutes. Jessica sat in a chair by the window. She took out her phone and opened the banking app. The account was there. $10,500. 15 minutes later, she was invited into an office. The manager, a woman around 40 in a tailored suit, greeted her and offered a seat. How can I help you? Jessica set her passport on the desk. I have a joint account with my husband. I want to file a request to restrict access to that account. The manager raised an eyebrow. Restricted in what way? I'm concerned about unauthorized access. I want any withdrawals or transfers to require my consent. Do you have grounds for these concerns? Yes. I have information that my husband plans to withdraw all the money from the account without my knowledge. The manager frowned, took the passport, and checked the system. All right. For this procedure, you'll need to submit a written request. It's processed within 1 business day. After that, a temporary restriction is placed on the account. Any transaction over $100 will require additional approval from you. Perfect. Can you print the form? Yes. The manager typed for a moment. The printer whirred. A minute later, Jessica was holding the request form. She read it carefully. It had everything: a request to restrict transactions, a requirement to notify her of any attempts to access funds, and a citation of the Consumer Protection Statute. Jessica picked up a pen and signed, dated it. The manager took the request, stamped it, and logged it in the system. Your request has been accepted. Within 24 hours, the restrictions will be applied. You'll receive a notification on your phone and by email. Thank you. Jessica stood, took the copy they gave her, slipped it into her bag, and left the bank. She checked the time, 9:45. She was late for work, but it didn't matter. She had done the right thing. No one at work asked where she'd been. Jessica sat down at her computer and dove into the routine: reports, documents, calls. At 1 o'clock, a bank notification popped up on her phone. Your request has been approved. Restrictions have been applied to account number. All transactions over $100 require additional confirmation. Jessica read the message twice, saved a screenshot, put the phone in her desk drawer. Now it was just a matter of waiting. That evening at home, Valentine was in a great mood. He whistled to himself, puttered around the kitchen, even offered to make dinner. What's got you so cheerful? Jessica asked. Oh, you know, life's looking up. Everything's about to be great. She didn't ask what he meant, just nodded. After dinner, Valentine started packing. He pulled a small bag from the closet and folded t-shirts, shorts, swim trunks. You're leaving tomorrow, right? Jessica asked. Yeah, midday flight. Mom's already packed. She's waiting on me. For long? 14 days. Maybe a little less. Jessica watched him pack, carefully folding each t-shirt, checking the pockets of his shorts. He was so sure of himself, so calm. She went to bed earlier than usual. Valentine tossed and turned for a while, scrolling through his phone, then finally turned off the light. Jessica didn't sleep. She lay there with her eyes closed, listening to his breathing. Tomorrow it would be over, or it would begin. In the morning, she got up when he did. Valentine was fidgety, nervous, checking documents, tickets, cash. "Jess, I'm heading out," he said, pulling on his jacket. "Have a good trip." He pecked her on the cheek, grabbed his bag. The door slammed. Jessica went to the window and looked down. Valentine walked out of the building and got into a taxi. The car pulled away. She went back to the kitchen, poured coffee, sat at the table, took out her phone, and opened the banking app. Account balance, $10, 500. She knew the plan. Valentine would go to his mother's first. Then they'd head to the bank or an ATM together. He'd try to withdraw the money. And that's when everything would collapse. Jessica sipped her coffee in small gulps, stared out the window, and waited. The first notification came at 10:20. Attempted withdrawal of $650 from account. Transaction blocked. Confirmation required. Jessica smirked. It was starting. 2 minutes later, another notification popped up. Attempted withdrawal of $400 from account. Transaction blocked. Confirmation required. He was trying smaller amounts now, thinking that might work. A minute later came the third one. Attempted transfer of $2,000 to card. Transaction blocked. Confirmation required. Jessica set her phone on the table and leaned back in her chair. She could picture it perfectly, Valentine standing at the ATM, punching buttons, watching the message appear on the screen. Transaction unavailable. Please contact your bank. He tries again, and again, and again. Nothing works. He calls customer service, waits forever on hold, then explains the situation. The operator politely replies, "Your account has been restricted upon request of the co-owner. Written consent is required to lift the restrictions." Next to him, his mother, Tamara, nervous, asking what's wrong. Valentine's confused. He'd planned everything. Everything was supposed to go smoothly. Jessica picked up her phone again, opened her messenger, and typed, "Were you trying to withdraw money from the account?" She sent it and placed the phone on the table, screen up. The reply came almost instantly. "Jess, what the hell? Why is the account blocked?" She typed her response slowly, choosing every word. "I filed a request at the bank. All transactions now require my approval." Pause. He was typing, deleting, typing again. "Are you out of your mind? That's our money." "Exactly. Our money. Which means decisions about it should be made together. You weren't planning to ask my opinion, were you?" Another long pause. Then a voice call. Jessica declined it. She texted back, "I'm at work. We'll talk later." She turned off the phone's sound, slipped it into her bag, got dressed, and left the apartment. She didn't go to work. She'd been meaning to take a personal day anyway. Now was the time. Jessica headed downtown. She stopped by a notary's office and certified copies of all her collected documents, statements, contracts, records. Then she went straight back to her lawyer. Christopher Anderson looked up, surprised. "That was fast." "I did what you said. Filed the request at the bank. The account's locked." "Excellent. Does your husband know yet?" "He knows. Tried to withdraw the money and couldn't." The lawyer nodded approvingly. "Good work. Now let's prepare the divorce papers, if you're ready." "I'm ready." They spent 2 hours in his office, filling out the divorce petition, listing shared assets, drafting claims. Jessica signed everything without hesitation. When she left the office, it was nearly 5 p.m. Her phone was blowing up, calls, messages. Valentine, Tamara. Dozens of missed calls from both. Jessica didn't call back. She just went home. The apartment greeted her with silence. She undressed, took a shower, made tea, and sat by the window with a cup in her hands. Somewhere out there, in an airport or hotel, Valentine and his mother were arguing, blaming each other, not knowing what to do. Their perfect plan had fallen apart. The vacation was canceled. The money was untouchable. And she was home, sipping tea, watching the sunset. She didn't feel joy or bitterness, just calm. Tomorrow she'd take the divorce papers to court. The official process would begin. But tonight, she simply exhaled. Her phone buzzed again. Valentine calling. Jessica picked up. "Yes? Where are you?" He shouted into the phone. "What the hell did you do? Do you realize what you've done?" "I protected my money." "Your money? It's our money. Family money. Family money is for family needs. A resort trip with your mother, does that sound like a family need to you?" Silence. He hadn't expected her to know. You went through my stuff?" "I didn't have to. You left everything out in the open, tickets in your jacket pocket, emails in your inbox." "You hacked my email?" That's invasion of privacy. You gave me the password yourself. And taking all the money behind my back. What was that? Family care? Valentine was breathing hard into the phone. Angry. Speechless. Listen to me, Jessica. He finally snapped. You're going to lift that restriction right now. You hear me? Immediately. No. What do you mean, no? I'm not lifting it. And tomorrow I'm filing for divorce, so you'd better get used to it. You've lost your mind. I'll drag you through every court in the state. You'll end up paying me. Good luck in court. I've got all the documents ready, and proof of your little scheme. So chances are, you'll be the one paying me. She hung up, blocked his number, then blocked Tamara's too. She sat back by the window and finished her cold tea. Outside, the city lights flickered on. Cars crawled along the avenues. People hurried home. Life went on for everyone, including her. Jessica got up, went to the closet, and pulled out a large travel bag. She started packing Valentine's things, carefully, without anger, just clearing out the clutter from her life. His clothes, shoes, razor, books, chargers, everything neatly folded, zipped up, and placed by the front door. Tomorrow, she'd drop it off at Tamara's. Let her take her precious son back. Jessica returned to the bedroom, lay down, pulled up the blanket, and closed her eyes. For the first time in a long while, she fell asleep without worrying about tomorrow, without thinking about money, without trying to please anyone. She just slept peacefully, because she had done everything she needed to. The morning began with a knock at the door. Jessica opened her eyes and looked at the clock. 7:30. She got up, threw on her robe, and went to the door, peering through the peephole. Valentine was outside, disheveled, angry, eyes red from exhaustion. Jessica didn't open. She just stood there, watching him through the peephole. Open up, he said hoarsely. I know you're home. She stayed silent. Jessica, open the door right now. This is my apartment. No, she said calmly. This is my apartment, bought with my money before we got married. You have no claim to it. I live here. You lived here. Not anymore. Your things are by the door. Pick them up after I leave for work. You can't kick me out. I can, and I already did. If you try to break in, I'll call the police. He slammed his fist against the door. Then again, cursing under his breath. Jessica stepped away from the door and dialed the police. She had the number saved in plain sight. Hello. My ex-husband is trying to break into my apartment and threatening me. Could you send someone over? 20 minutes later, a patrol arrived. Jessica opened the door. Valentine stood in the hallway, furious and disheveled. The officers spoke with him, checked the paperwork, confirmed the apartment was in Jessica's name, and asked him to leave the premises. He left, but before turning the corner, he said, You'll regret this, Jessica. She closed the door, thanked the officers, and went back inside. Sat down on the couch and took a deep breath. Her phone buzzed. A message from her lawyer. Jessica, the bank request was filed in time. The restrictions are active. Now, let's wait for what comes next. She replied briefly, thank you, then put the phone down, stood up, walked to the kitchen, poured a glass of water, and drank it in one gulp. It was Saturday. Valentine and his mother were supposed to fly out Monday morning, flight at 11:40. That meant he'd probably try to withdraw the money either Sunday evening or early Monday before the flight. She had time to prepare. Jessica opened her laptop, went to her email, created a new folder, and named it Evidence. She moved there all the screenshots of Valentine's chats with his mother, photos of the tickets, and the bank notifications. Then she opened her documents, marriage certificate, condo deed, pay stubs for the past 3 years. She neatly laid them all out on the table, photographed each one, and uploaded the images to the cloud. If things went to court, she'd have a complete set of proof. She closed the laptop and glanced at the clock, 6:30 p.m. Her stomach growled. She hadn't eaten since the night before. She opened the fridge, took out some eggs, a tomato, and cheese, made an omelet, sat down at the table and ate slowly, mechanically. Her phone buzzed again, an unknown number. She declined. A minute later, another call. Declined again. A message came through. This is Tamara. Jessica, we need to talk. Valentine told me everything. You're making a mistake. Jessica deleted the message and blocked the number. Finished her omelet, washed the dishes, and walked around the apartment. Every room felt different now, emptier, lighter. His things, his scent, his presence, all gone. And that was a relief. She went to bed early, but sleep wouldn't come. Jessica lay staring at the ceiling, running through all possible scenarios. Valentine would try to withdraw the money. It wouldn't work. He'd call her, demand answers, maybe threaten her. She wouldn't cave. Then he'd realize the trip was ruined, tickets canceled, hotel reservation void, money lost. Tomorrow would lose it, blame him, a massive argument would follow. Jessica smiled in the dark. Let them fight, let them blame each other. That was no longer her problem. She finally fell asleep near dawn. When she woke up, her phone was lighting up with messages. 8 missed calls, 12 texts, all from different numbers, but she recognized the tone. Jessica, this is madness. Cancel the block right now. You're destroying our family. I get that you're hurt, but this isn't the way. We can talk about it, just lift the restriction. Jessica deleted every message and blocked every number. Then she got up, took a shower, and got dressed. Sunday, the calm before the storm. She spent the day at home, reading a book, watching a movie, cooking lunch. Everything felt normal on the surface, but inside, the tension built tighter and tighter, like a stretched wire ready to snap. That evening, Lydia called. Jess, how are you? Everything okay? Yeah, everything's fine. Hey, do you know why your Valentine messaged me today? Jessica stiffened. He did? What did he want? He asked me to tell you to call him. Said it was urgent. I told him I'm not getting in the middle of your drama. You did the right thing. Don't answer him again. Jess, seriously, what's going on? Did you guys have a big fight? LYD, I'll tell you everything later. For now, just trust me, I'm doing the right thing. All right, I trust you. They said goodbye. Jessica hung up. So Valentine was trying to reach her through mutual friends. Desperate. She went to bed calm. Tomorrow, it would all be over. Monday morning began like any other. Jessica got up at 7, had breakfast, got dressed for work. Before leaving, she checked her phone, bank app, account, $10,500, still there. She left the apartment, got into her car, and drove to the office. Valentine's flight was at 11:40, which meant he'd leave for the airport around 9. He'd try to withdraw the money either before leaving or once there. Jessica parked by the office, walked in, took the elevator to her floor, turned on her computer, and started sorting through emails. Time crawled. Every minute felt endless. At 10:05, the first notification appeared. Attempted withdrawal of $650 from account. Transaction blocked. Confirmation required. Jessica froze. Read it twice. He tried to withdraw the money. A minute later, another notification. Attempted withdrawal of $400 from account. Transaction blocked. Confirmation required. He was trying a smaller amount now. Thought the issue was a withdrawal limit. 2 minutes later came the third. Attempted transfer of $2,000 to card number. Transaction blocked. Confirmation required. Jessica set the phone face down. Her hands trembled slightly, not from fear, but from tension. She opened a report on her computer, started working, numbers, tables, formulas. She needed a distraction. 10 minutes passed. The phone buzzed, Valentine calling. Jessica ignored it. 30 seconds later, another call. Ignored again. Third call. Fourth. Fifth. She turned off the sound and put the phone in her desk drawer, focusing on work. At 11, there was a knock on her office door. Lydia stepped in. Jess, your husband's downstairs. He's demanding to speak with you. Security won't let him in, but he's losing it. Jessica looked at her calmly. Tell security to call the police if he doesn't leave. Are you serious? Completely. Lydia nodded and left. Jessica stood up, walked to the window, and looked down. In the courtyard, Valentine was waving his arms, shouting something at the guard. She turned away, went back to her desk. 5 minutes later, Lydia returned. They told him to leave and threatened to call the cops. He left. Jess, what's going on? He tried to take all the money. I locked the account. Now he's mad. Lydia whistled softly. Well, that's a twist. Yeah, quite a twist. Lydia left. Jessica went back to work. At 11:30, a text came in from an unknown number. She opened it and froze. Good luck, idiot. I left you $100 to live on. Jessica read it once, twice, 3 times. $100 to live on, idiot. She opened the banking app and refreshed the balance. $100. Exactly 100 left. The rest, gone. Jessica felt a cold knot tighten inside her, the blood draining from her face. He'd done it. Her husband had withdrawn all the money from their joint account and gone on vacation with his mother, sending her a text that said, "Good luck, idiot." I left you $100 to live on. But the jerk didn't know that just a couple of minutes earlier, she'd taken one action that changed everything. Jessica gasped, refreshed the app again, and saw it. Transaction of $10,500 is pending. Funds temporarily unavailable. Awaiting bank verification. She exhaled. Her hand stopped shaking. The request had worked. The bank had frozen the transaction. The money was in limbo. Valentine thought he'd withdrawn it, but in reality, it was locked by the bank's security system. Jessica grabbed the phone and called the bank's hotline. Hello, my name is Jessica Grimoff. Account number. One moment, please. Checking yes, Mrs. Grimoff. I'm listening. I had a large withdrawal attempt on my account. I previously filed a request to restrict access. What's the status of that operation? Checking yes, there was an attempted transaction for $10,500. It was blocked by our security system. Your confirmation is required to process it. I do not confirm that transaction. The money was withdrawn without my knowledge. Understood. In that case, the transaction will be canceled. The funds will return to your account within 3 business days. Where are they now? In the bank's reserve fund, under protection. All right, thank you. Jessica hung up, leaned back in her chair, and closed her eyes. It worked. Everything had worked. Valentine thought he'd won, that the money was his, that he was already checking in at the airport, ready to fly off. But in 3 days, every cent would come back to her. Meanwhile, he'd be stuck at a resort with no money, an enraged mother, and a canceled hotel booking. Jessica opened her eyes and looked out the window. The sun was shining brightly. The city was moving on with its usual rhythm, while her life had just changed forever. She picked up her phone and texted Valentine from the same number he'd used. Thanks for the kind wishes, but I won't be needing the $100 or the other $10,500. The bank will return them to me in 3 days. But you'll definitely need them to pay for your return ticket. She hit send, blocked the number, and went back to work. About 20 minutes later, her office phone rang. Internal line, from security. Grimoff speaking. Jessica, that man is back again. Demanding to see you. What should we do? Call the police. I'll file a harassment complaint. Understood. Jessica returned to her report. Half an hour later, Lydia popped her head in. They took him away. Filed a report, warned him that if he shows up again, they'll press charges. Perfect. Jessica worked until 6, just like any other day. She signed all the papers, held the staff meeting, finalized the next quarter's budget. Then she packed up, left the office, and drove home. On the way, she stopped at the supermarket, bought groceries, a bottle of wine, good cheese, and red fish. At home, she showered, changed into something comfortable, made dinner, set the table, poured herself a glass of wine, and raised it to justice. She drank, ate, washed the dishes, and sat down on the couch. Turned on the TV, a detective show. She watched absent-mindedly. Her phone stayed silent. Valentine didn't text or call again. He must have realized he'd lost. Jessica turned off the TV, went to bed, and stared at the ceiling. Tomorrow she'd go to her lawyer and file for divorce officially. Then would come the court process, property division, all the legal back and forth. But she wasn't afraid, because she was right, and she knew it. She fell asleep peacefully. No nightmares. No anxiety. Just sleep. The next morning, she woke to a phone call. Unknown number. She answered. Hello. Jessica? Yes. This is the bank's security department. We have a question regarding yesterday's transaction. I'm listening. Can you confirm that the $10,500 withdrawal was made without your consent? I confirm. All right. We'll need you to come in and file an official statement with your signature and stamp. When? Preferably today, before noon. Understood. I'll be there within an hour. Jessica got up, got dressed, had breakfast, and drove to the bank. In the security office, she was greeted by a middle-aged man in a dark suit. Please, have a seat. My name is Robert Mitchell, and I'm handling your case. Jessica sat down. Please tell me in detail what happened. She told him everything, about the tickets, the messages, Valentine's withdrawal attempts, and the request she'd filed at the bank. Robert listened carefully, taking notes. Do you have evidence? Yes. Jessica handed him her phone, screenshots of the messages, photos of the tickets, bank notifications. Excellent. That'll be enough. I'll prepare a report for you to sign. Once it's processed, the funds will be returned to your account within 24 hours. Just 24? I was told 3 days. That's the standard time frame. But in your case, it's straightforward. The transaction was clearly fraudulent. We'll expedite it. Jessica nodded, signed all the documents, and stamped them. What will happen to my husband? Technically, he attempted to commit theft. We can file a police report. Do it. Are you sure? Absolutely. Robert nodded, made a note. All right, we'll forward the materials to law enforcement. There will be an investigation. Jessica stood up, thanked him, and left the bank. She got into her car, looked at herself in the rearview mirror, calm face, steady breathing, no emotion. She started the car and drove to work. The day went by as usual, reports, meetings, planning sessions. In the evening, Jessica stopped by her lawyer's office. Christopher Anderson greeted her with a folder in hand. I've prepared the divorce petition. I just need your approval. File it. Divorce is a serious step. I've never been more certain about anything. The lawyer nodded and handed her the papers. Jessica read them carefully, then signed. When will you file in court? Tomorrow morning. The hearing will likely be scheduled within a month. All right. Jessica left the office. The streets were already dark, streetlights glowing over the empty sidewalks. She walked slowly toward her car, thinking about everything that had happened in just a few days, discovering the betrayal, gathering evidence, freezing the account, protecting her money, filing for divorce. Her life had flipped upside down in less than a week, but she didn't regret a thing. At home, Jessica took a long bath, poured herself a glass of wine, and sat by the window, watching the city lights and the traffic below. Somewhere out there, at the resort, Valentine was just now realizing the scale of his disaster. No money. Hotel booking canceled. His mother hysterical. Police looking for him for attempted theft. Jessica finished her wine and set the glass on the windowsill. Justice had prevailed. The next day, Wednesday, the money returned to her account. All $10,500. Every cent. Jessica transferred it to a new account opened solely in her name. She closed the old joint account, cut up the card, and called the bank. The account is closed. I no longer share any accounts with Valentine Grimoff. Understood, ma'am. Thank you for the confirmation. Jessica hung up the phone and exhaled. Financially, she was free. Legally, she would be soon. All that was left was to wait for the court date. That evening, Lydia called. Jess, I just ran into your mother-in-law. You wouldn't believe the things she was saying. What things? That you stole their money. That they're stranded down south with no funds. That you set them up on purpose. Jessica smiled faintly. And what did you say? I told her that if they're stranded without money, then they must have been trying to spend someone else's and got what they deserved. Good girl. They both laughed and said goodbye. Jessica went to bed calm. Tomorrow was a new day, a new life. No Valentine, no lies, no meddling mother-in-law, just her. And that felt wonderful. A week passed. Quiet. Peaceful. Jessica worked, met up with friends, went to the gym. Valentine didn't show up, didn't call. The silence was strange, but pleasant. On Friday evening, the doorbell rang. Jessica looked through the peephole. Tamara was standing there, clutching a huge bag, her face twisted in anger and determination. Jessica didn't open. She just watched. I know you're in there. The woman shouted. Open this door right now. Jessica called the police. Hello. There's a woman at my door demanding to be let in. I'm afraid for my safety. She gave the address and hung up. Tamara kept pounding on the door, yelling, threatening. 10 minutes later, 2 police officers arrived. Jessica opened the door. This woman has been harassing me. It's her 3rd time coming here. I want to file a complaint. They took a report. Tamara was officially warned, if she showed up again, she'd be charged with harassment. The mother-in-law left, hissing curses as she went down the hall. Jessica closed the door and leaned against it, exhausted, tired of all of it, but holding on, because she knew it would soon be over. The court, the divorce, the freedom. Very soon. 2 weeks later, the court summons arrived. The hearing was scheduled for Tuesday, May 21st, at 10 a.m. Jessica marked the date on her calendar and began preparing. She gathered all the documents, income statements, bank records, evidence of attempted theft, copies of their messages, photos. Everything was neatly organized in folders, numbered, and cataloged. She met with her lawyer. They rehearsed possible questions, practiced her answers. The key is composure, Christopher Anderson said. Don't let them provoke you. Answer clearly and briefly. Leave emotions outside the courtroom. Got it. At home, Jessica practiced in front of the mirror, speaking out loud. My husband attempted to steal our family savings. I have proof. I'm requesting a divorce and division of assets according to my contribution. Calm, confident, steady voice. The day of the trial arrived. Jessica woke up at 6, showered, put on a tailored dark gray suit, tied her hair in a neat bun, and kept her makeup minimal. She looked in the mirror, composed, ready. She grabbed the folder of documents and left the apartment. She arrived at the courthouse around 9:30, went inside, and up to the 3rd floor. In the hallway sat Valentine, with his lawyer. He looked awful, thin, pale, his suit wrinkled. He saw her, stood up quickly, took a step toward her. Jessica. She walked right past him without a glance and sat down on a bench at the far end. Took out her phone and reviewed her documents one more time. Christopher Anderson arrived at 9:55 on the dot. Ready? Yes. Remember what we talked about, no emotions, just facts. I remember. At exactly 10 o'clock, the courtroom door opened. The clerk called out, "Case Grimoff, please enter." Jessica stood tall, took a deep breath, and stepped inside. Her new life was beginning. The judge, a woman in her mid-50s with sharp eyes and a firm expression, sat behind the high bench. A robe, glasses on a chain, a thick folder before her. To the right, 2 chairs for the parties. To the left, the clerk's desk. Jessica took her seat. Valentine sat opposite her. 3 meters apart, but it felt like an entire abyss. The judge lifted her gaze from the papers. Case number concerning the dissolution of marriage between Jessica Grimoff and Valentine Grimoff. Both parties are present. Christopher Anderson stood. Your Honor, representing the plaintiff, Jessica Grimoff, attorney Christopher Anderson. Valentine's lawyer rose. For the defense, Valentine Grimoff, attorney Oliver Markoff. Be seated. Let's begin with the statement of the case. Plaintiff, your claims. Christopher Anderson opened his folder. Your Honor, my client is seeking dissolution of marriage on the grounds of irreconcilable differences and the impossibility of continued cohabitation. She also requests a fair division of jointly acquired property according to each party's contribution. The basis, the defendant attempted to steal the family's funds by withdrawing all the money from the joint account without the plaintiff's knowledge, with intent to leave the country. We have evidence, his written correspondence with his mother outlining the plan, airline tickets, hotel reservations, and official bank notifications documenting the unauthorized access attempts. The judge accepted the documents he handed over, studying them carefully, turning page after page. Her expression remained unreadable. Defendant, are you aware of this evidence? Valentine stood, voice trembling. Yes, Your Honor, but it's not what it looks like. I wasn't trying to steal. I just wanted to take my mother on a trip. She's sick, she needs the ocean. Sit down. A vacation with your mother doesn't explain emptying the account without notifying your wife. Why didn't you discuss it with her? Valentine stayed silent. His lawyer put a hand on his shoulder, then stood. Your Honor, my client admits he made a mistake by not informing his wife of his plans. But that shouldn't be grounds for divorce. The couple can reconcile this conflict peacefully. Plaintiff, do you agree to reconciliation? Jessica stood, meeting the judge's eyes directly. No, I do not. This isn't the first deception. My husband hasn't worked in 3 years. I've covered every expense myself. He's used me as his personal source of income. And when he thought I'd saved enough, he tried to take it all and disappear. Do you have evidence that the defendant hasn't worked? Yes. Here are my income records for the past 3 years, bank statements showing all deposits coming from my salary, and the defendant's tax declaration showing 0 income. The documents were passed to the judge. She examined them for about 5 minutes. The silence in the courtroom was heavy. Defendant, you haven't worked in 3 years? Valentine stood again, his face flushed. I was looking for work. The job market's tough. Not everyone's hiring. 3 years of searching. In that time, one could find something. Why didn't you? I wanted something decent, not just any job. So you preferred to live off your wife's earnings? Well, in a way, yes, but we're a family. Families are supposed to support each other. The judge took off her glasses, wiped them, and put them back on. A family means mutual support, not one-sided dependence. Sit down. Jessica saw Valentine's fists clench, his neck turn red. He was furious, but powerless. Let's move on to the division of assets, the judge said. Plaintiff, what are your claims? Christopher Anderson stood. The apartment located at 23 Oak Street, Unit 108, belongs solely to the plaintiff. It was purchased before the marriage, and there is a valid purchase agreement confirming her ownership. The defendant has no legal claim to the property. Defendant, do you agree with that? Valentine's lawyer rose. We do not agree. During the marriage, the apartment underwent renovations. My client contributed financially and participated in the process. According to the law, improvements made to one spouse's property at the expense of the other are subject to compensation. Plaintiff? Christopher Anderson handed the judge another folder. Here are all the receipts for the renovation materials, each paid with the plaintiff's card. Here are also photos of the renovation in progress, showing the plaintiff performing the work herself. The defendant is not present in any of the photographs. The judge examined the pictures carefully. Everyone showed Jessica, with a paint roller, a brush, a utility knife. Alone. Always alone. Defendant, did you physically participate in the renovation? Valentine hesitated. I gave advice. Helped pick materials. So you did not physically participate? Well, not exactly. Yes or no? No. Did you contribute any money toward the renovation materials? No, but that's enough. Sit down. The claim regarding the apartment is denied. Valentine dropped heavily into his chair, his face ashen. Now, regarding financial assets, the judge continued. Plaintiff, what amount was held in the joint account? $10,500. It was a joint account, but every dollar came from my salary. I have statements covering the past 3 years showing all deposits from my income. Did the defendant contribute any funds to this account? Not once. Defendant, is that true? Valentine stood. Yes, I didn't contribute. But we were married, by law that makes it joint property. By law, joint property is that which was acquired by both spouses during the marriage. If one spouse is not employed and makes no contribution, their claim to that property may be disputed. Sit down. The judge made a note in the record and checked the time. We'll take a 30-minute recess. Court will resume afterward. Everyone stood as the judge exited the courtroom. Jessica stepped into the hallway. Christopher Anderson walked beside her. Everything's going well. The judge is clearly on your side. Obviously. He won't be able to claim anything, will he? No. The evidence is solid. The apartment is yours, the money is yours. He didn't work, didn't contribute. He's got nothing to stand on. Jessica nodded and sat on a bench, taking a sip from her water bottle. Valentine stood at the end of the hall, furiously whispering to his lawyer, who only shook his head and gestured helplessly. After half an hour, everyone was called back into the courtroom. The judge returned to her seat. Let's continue. Do either of the parties have anything to add? Valentine's lawyer rose again. Your Honor, my client asks that the court consider the fact that he managed the household for 3 years, cooking, cleaning, maintaining comfort. That, too, is a contribution to the marriage. The judge looked at him over her glasses. Housekeeping is a basic responsibility of every adult. When one spouse works and the other doesn't, maintaining the home is a natural form of balance. It is not grounds for property claims. But, sit down. The lawyer obeyed. Valentine had gone pale. Plaintiff, anything to add? Christopher Anderson stood. Yes, Your Honor. We request moral damages in the amount of $1,300 to compensate for the attempted theft, deception, and the emotional distress suffered by the plaintiff. Please justify that. The plaintiff was forced to spend significant time and effort defending her rights, contacting the bank, consulting attorneys, filing reports with the police. She suffered severe stress upon discovering her husband's plans, which affected her health and mental well-being. Do you have medical documentation? Yes. A doctor's note confirming elevated blood pressure and prescriptions for sedatives. The documents were passed to the judge. She reviewed them. Defendant, any objections? Valentine said nothing. His lawyer stood. Your Honor, $1,300 is an excessive amount for my client. He is unemployed and has no means to pay. His lack of means is of his own making. Unemployment is not an excuse for avoiding responsibility. Objection overruled. The judge closed the folder and looked at both parties. No further questions? Then I will announce the ruling. Everyone rose. The marriage between Jessica Grimoff and Valentine Grimoff is hereby dissolved. The apartment at 23 Oak Street, Unit 108, remains the sole property of Jessica Grimoff. The funds totaling $10,500 are recognized as her personal assets. The court orders Valentine Grimoff to pay Jessica Grimoff moral damages in the amount of $1,300. The ruling will take effect in 1 month. Court is adjourned. A sharp bang of the gavel. The judge stood, and everyone followed. Jessica remained motionless. The words echoed in her mind: divorce granted, apartment hers, money hers, $1,300 compensation. She had won. Completely. Christopher Anderson shook her hand. Congratulations. A flawless victory. Jessica nodded, too choked up to speak. Valentine turned abruptly and stormed out, slamming the door behind him. His lawyer gathered the papers and followed. Jessica stepped into the corridor, walked to the window, and looked down. Valentine stood outside smoking, staring at the pavement. She turned away, not wanting to see him again, took another exit, got in her car, started the engine, and drove to work. On the way, she called Lydia. "LYD, I won the case." "Jess, congratulations. When are we celebrating?" "Friday. My treat." "It's a date." Jessica parked by the office, went inside, and headed up to her floor. Her co-workers congratulated her. Some knew about the trial, others just sensed something good had happened from her smile. She worked until evening as usual: reports, documents, meetings. At 6, she packed up, left the office, stopped by the supermarket, and bought groceries, champagne, and a good cake. At home, she took a bath, poured a glass of champagne, and raised it to freedom. She took a sip. The bubbles tickled her tongue. The champagne was cold and sweet. She ate a piece of cake, looked at the clock, 8 o'clock, and lay down on the couch, turning on the TV. Some random movie was playing, it didn't matter which. She thought about everything that had happened. 2 months ago, she'd been married, saving for the future. Now she was free, divorced, with her own apartment, her own money, and justice on her side. Her life had completely changed. And it felt right. The next day, Jessica went to the bank. She closed the old joint account once and for all, opened a new 1-year deposit, and transferred the $10,500 there. The additional $1,300 in compensation would come in a month, once the court's decision took effect. She walked out of the bank and got into her car. Her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "Are you happy now? You ruined my life." Jessica deleted the message. Blocked the number. A minute later, another one. From a different number. "I'll fight back. I'll get justice." Deleted. Blocked. A third message came through. "You'll regret what you did." Jessica stared at the screen for a moment, then dialed the police. "Hello. My ex-husband is harassing me. He's been sending threats. I want to file a report." They gave her an appointment for the next morning at 10. Jessica drove home. The apartment was quiet, empty, peaceful. She changed into something comfortable and made herself dinner. She ate slowly, thinking about her visit to the police tomorrow. Threats were serious. If he didn't stop, they could press charges. But that didn't scare her. She'd do everything right, write the report, attach the screenshots, and let the authorities handle it. After dinner, Jessica sat down at her laptop and opened her documents folder. She found everything: Valentine's messages from the past month. She saved them into a separate file. Tomorrow, she'd take it to the police. She went to bed late, read until 1 in the morning, then turned off the light and fell asleep peacefully. The next morning, she drove to the police station. A young lieutenant greeted her. "Please, have a seat. Tell me the nature of your complaint." Jessica explained everything, showed the messages, and described the divorce situation. "I see. Yes, these are clear threats. We'll log your report, call him in for questioning, and issue a warning. If he continues, we'll open a criminal case." "Thank you." Jessica signed the statement, got her copy, left the station, got in her car, and drove to work. At the office, a surprise was waiting for her: a large envelope on her desk. Inside was an invitation to a corporate event, the company's anniversary banquet at a restaurant. Jessica smiled. She hadn't been to a company party in ages. Maybe it was time to go. She worked until lunch, then went out to eat with Lydia. "So, how do you feel?" Lydia asked, sipping her coffee. "Strange. It's like relief, but also a kind of emptiness." "That's normal. You lived with him for 3 years. You got used to it. Now you're adjusting." "Maybe. Have you thought about dating again? For yourself?" Jessica shook her head. "No. I'm fine on my own, honestly. But isn't it lonely?" "Not at all. I've got work, friends, hobbies. I don't need a man to feel complete." Lydia nodded. "I get it. You're amazing, Jess. Really. Not everyone could do what you did." They finished lunch and went back to the office. That evening, Jessica finally went to the gym, something she'd been meaning to do for weeks. She bought a membership and worked out for an hour. Left exhausted but happy. At home, she showered and lay on the couch, staring at the ceiling. Her life was slowly coming together, day by day. A week passed, quiet and steady. Valentine didn't write again. The police had spoken to him, and apparently, it worked. On Friday, Jessica met Lydia for dinner. They went to a nice restaurant, ordered wine, steaks, and dessert. "To your freedom," Lydia said, raising her glass. "To freedom," Jessica echoed. They clinked glasses and drank. Talked about everything and nothing, work, plans, dreams. "You know, I saw your ex," Lydia said between dessert and coffee. Jessica tensed. "Where?" "Near our office. He's working as a loader at the warehouse." "A loader?" "Yeah. Guess he ran out of options. Had to make a living somehow." Jessica didn't respond, just nodded. She didn't feel sorry for him. Not at all. He'd made his own choices. They stayed until the restaurant closed, then stepped out into the cool night air, hugged, and went their separate ways. Jessica walked through the quiet city. Streetlights glowed over empty streets. Somewhere, music played, people laughed. Life went on, for everyone. For her too. A month later, $1,300 hit her account, the compensation from Valentine. The court ruling had taken effect. Jessica transferred the money to her deposit. Now she had $11,800 in total. A solid amount. She started thinking about what to do with it. Maybe travel, to Europe, to Asia. She'd always wanted to see the world. Or invest in herself, take a professional course, maybe an MBA. There were so many options, and that felt exciting. In July, Jessica got promoted to Deputy Finance Director. A new position, a higher salary, a new office. She spent the whole day moving boxes of documents, personal items, plants. By evening, everything was set. Jessica sat at her new desk, looked out the window. The city stretched before her like a living map. She smiled. Life really was getting better. She went home late, tired but happy. Took a shower, lay in bed, and stared at the ceiling. A year ago, her life had been completely different. Marriage, illusions, false hopes. Now everything had changed, for the better. In August, Jessica took a 2-week vacation. She bought tickets to Italy, Rome, Venice, Florence. She dreamed of this trip for years. Valentine had always said they couldn't afford such things, that they had to save for more important goals. Now she understood, he just never wanted to spend anything on her. Jessica flew to Rome alone, sitting by the window, watching the clouds drift beneath her. Below, Europe stretched out, mountains, rivers, cities. She smiled. For the first time in years, she felt truly free. In Rome, she wandered the ancient streets, marveled at the Colosseum, tossed a coin into the Trevi fountain, ate pasta in small trattorias, and drank wine on terraces overlooking the city. No one told her where to go, what to see, or how much to spend. She decided. She chose. She enjoyed. In Venice, she rode a gondola, listened to the gondoliers' songs, admired the old palaces. In Florence, she wandered through museums, stood for hours before paintings, absorbing their beauty. 2 weeks flew by in a heartbeat. Jessica returned home sun-kissed, rested, happy. Lydia met her at the airport. "Jess, you look amazing." "Thanks. I had a fantastic time." They drove home, Lydia asking nonstop about Italy. Jessica told her everything, showing photos along the way. "You know, I envy you," Lydia said as they pulled up to Jessica's building. "Me? Why? You're so independent, so free. You live how you want, do what you want. It's the dream. It wasn't easy to get here. I know, but you did it, and that's what matters." They said goodbye. Jessica went upstairs, unlocked her apartment, and turned on the lights. Quiet. Empty. Hers. She unpacked, showered, and lay in bed, thinking about the past year. So much had happened: betrayal, divorce, court, a new life. Sometimes she still dreamed about Valentine. She'd wake up in a cold sweat, remembering his words, his lies. But then she'd realize it was all in the past. He couldn't hurt her anymore. Jessica closed her eyes and drifted off slowly, peacefully. Autumn came quietly. The city turned gold and red. Rain fell more often. Jessica worked hard, traveled on business, met with partners. Her career was thriving. Her salary kept growing. Everything was good. In November, she sold her apartment, the same one she'd once shared with Valentine. Too many memories. Too much pain. She bought a new place, smaller, but right in the city center. Bright, cozy, with floor-to-ceiling windows. furnished it entirely to her taste, without compromise, white walls, lots of books, simple and clean, minimalism at its best. She moved in that December and threw a small housewarming party, inviting Lydia and a few close friends. They sat on the floor, drinking wine, laughing, making plans. "Jess, have you thought about finding someone?" one of them asked. "A cat, you mean?" Jessica chuckled. "Or maybe a man. I'm fine on my own. But don't you get lonely? Being alone?" Jessica looked at her. "You know what's really lonely? Being with someone and still feeling alone. That's the kind of loneliness that hurts." The room fell quiet for a moment, then someone quickly changed the subject. The guests left late. Jessica cleaned up, went to bed, stared at the new ceiling in her new apartment, and thought about her new life. She wasn't planning to remarry. She didn't want to trust anyone again. Once burned was enough. Maybe someday, if she met someone who wouldn't lie, use her, or betray her. But not now. For now, she just wanted to live. For herself. Jessica spent New Year's Eve at home, alone, with a bottle of champagne and a good movie. When the clock struck midnight, she raised her glass. "To me, to my life, to my freedom." She drank, then looked out the window. Fireworks exploded across the city, bright and joyful. Jessica smiled. She had her own reason to celebrate. She'd survived betrayal, pain, and struggle. She had stood her ground. Won. And now, her life was finally her own. The morning of January 1st was peaceful. Jessica woke up late, made coffee, and looked out the window. Snow fell in big, soft flakes, covering the city in white. She wondered briefly about Valentine. Where was he now? How was he living? It didn't matter. Not at all. He was part of the past, unpleasant, painful, but past. Jessica finished her coffee, got dressed, and went out for a walk through the snowy streets. She watched people, children pulling sleds, couples walking hand in hand. She felt calm, content, at peace. That evening, she came home, made dinner, sat by the window with a book, and read late into the night before falling asleep. She drifted off with one clear thought: tomorrow begins a new day, a new start, new possibilities, and they were all hers. January passed quickly. Jessica dove into work. A new project, a big contract, meant heavy responsibility. She worked late, came home exhausted, and fell into bed each night. But it was a good kind of exhaustion, the kind that comes from doing what you love and seeing real results. In February, she was invited to a professional conference in another city, a 3-day event where she'd give a presentation. Jessica agreed, prepared carefully, and delivered her speech flawlessly. Afterward, colleagues surrounded her, asking questions, exchanging contacts. She felt completely in her element, both in her career and in her life. When she returned home, she told Lydia all about it. "Jess, you're a total star." "Not really. I just did my job well." "Very well. I'm proud of you." Jessica smiled. It felt nice to hear. Then, in March, something unexpected happened. On her way home from work, she stopped by the supermarket for groceries. As she stood in line at the register, she suddenly saw him, Valentine. He was in the next line over, thinner, wearing a worn-out jacket, buying the cheapest items: bread, pasta, canned goods. Jessica froze. Her heart pounded in her chest. He didn't see her, paid for his groceries, took the bag, and walked out. She just watched him go. No emotions, no pity, no anger. Just watched. Then she paid, left the store, got into her car, and drove home. Back at her apartment, she unpacked the groceries and sat down on the couch, covering her face with her hands. Seeing him had been unexpected, painful, unpleasant, but it changed nothing. He was still part of the past, right where he belonged. Jessica got up, made dinner, washed the dishes, and went to bed as usual. She didn't think about Valentine again. April brought warmth. The city bloomed. Sunshine returned. Jessica bought a bike and started riding through parks on weekends, breathing in the fresh air, enjoying life. Sometimes Lydia joined her. "Jess, did you know your ex has a new girlfriend?" Jessica smirked. "No, and I don't want to." "Well, I thought maybe you'd be curious." "Not even a little." Lydia shrugged and didn't mention it again. They rode until evening, then stopped by a cafe for ice cream, chatting about work and plans. "I'm thinking of taking a summer vacation," Jessica said. "Maybe Greece." "Oh, that sounds amazing. Take me with you." "LYD, you've got a husband and kids." "So what? He can handle them for 2 weeks." Jessica laughed. "All right then. We'll go together." They agreed and started planning the trip. May was hot. Jessica worked hard, finished a major project, and earned a big bonus. She deposited the money. Now she had over $12,000 saved, a serious amount. She wasn't spending recklessly. She was saving for the future. The real future. Maybe one day she'd buy a house outside the city. Or start her own business. There were plenty of options. In June, she and Lydia flew to Greece, Athens, Santorini, Crete. 2 weeks of sunshine, sea, and rest. Jessica lay on the beach, swam in warm water, drank wine at sunset. Lydia took endless photos, posted them online, and laughed like a kid. "Jess, this is the best vacation of my life." "Mine too." They laughed, wandered through narrow streets, bought souvenirs. Jessica felt truly happy, not because of anyone else, but because she had chosen this life. Built it, earned it. They came home tanned, relaxed, and full of energy. Back at work, Jessica returned with fresh ideas and proposed a new project. Her boss approved. Autumn came quietly again. A year had passed since the divorce. Jessica sat at home, sipping tea, looking out the window, thinking about how much her life had changed. A year ago, she'd been broken, betrayed, angry, hurt. Now she was calm, confident, happy. She had a good job, her own apartment, money in the bank, friends by her side. No man, but she didn't need one. Maybe someday, if she met someone worthy, someone who wouldn't lie, use, or belittle her. But that wasn't her goal. It wasn't her dream. She dreamed of something else: freedom, peace, stability, the right to live exactly as she wanted. And that dream had come true. Jessica finished her tea, stood by the window. The city outside pulsed with life, cars passing, people hurrying, lights glowing. And she just stood there, watching, calm, free. Her life was entirely her own, and that was the best thing that had ever happened to her. Another 6 months passed. Winter again. New Year's Eve approached. Jessica spent it alone, by choice. Her friends invited her to parties, her coworkers to gatherings, but she declined. She wanted silence, peace, her own space. When the clock struck 12, she raised her glass. To 2 years of freedom. To myself. To my life. She drank and looked out the window. Fireworks burst over the city, bright, colorful, celebratory. Jessica smiled. She had come a long way, from deceit to truth, from pain to peace, from dependence to freedom. And she never once regretted her choice, because it was the right one. The only right one. On the morning of January 1st, she woke with a sense of lightness, as if a weight had finally lifted off her shoulders. Jessica got up, opened the window, breathed in the crisp winter air. A new year, new opportunities. A new chapter, and she was ready to write it. On her own. Without anyone's help. Because she had learned the most important lesson: never tolerate what doesn't make you happy. Don't wait for someone else to fix things. Fix them yourself, quickly, firmly, without doubt. Jessica closed the window, went to the kitchen, made coffee, and sat by the window with her cup in hand, watching the snow-covered city, the white rooftops, the clear sky, knowing with absolute certainty that whatever came next, she'd be fine. Because now she knew her worth, and no one would ever use her again. Ever.